Hey yo, it is February the 3rd, 2023, and we made it. We're back. And I congratulate y'all. I congratulate us on making it back for another installment. Y'all, I don't have anything in front of me. All right, so we are going to go willy-nilly tonight, but I do have a couple of things, a couple of main things that I want to talk about tonight. All right, if somebody happens to show up, then we're gonna go ahead and give them the floor and get down to the real nitty gritty. Nothing else is in front of me, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about tonight. One, the first thing is fairly serious. I deem it as serious. I've been meaning to talk with y'all about it for about a couple of weeks. Shout out to whoever's up in the building. I've been meaning to talk to y'all about this thing for a couple of weeks, but uh, it's, it's been in the back of my mind, somewhere in the back of my mind, for a long time now. Right? It's actually kind of controversial. Philip Strackner might know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's been a while, but it's always uh, a while, and it's always a little bit too long. But um, personally, I cherish all the moments that we get together. Might not be another moment. There might not be another moment. Not on this plane. So gotta savor them. Gotta savor them. And I don't know if Philip Strackner wants to hear about anything like this necessarily. I understand that Philip Strackner has been many a places and has experienced many things. Perhaps this sort of thing. But I don't want to assume so. The first thing I wanted to talk about on a less serious note, and I'm gonna have to kind of mask my words, is chakoking. Chakoking. I think you might start to get to know what I'm talking about when I say chakoking. I'm gonna say it numerous times. That's pretty much the main point of what I wanted to talk about right now. All right, so for example, why this came up to my mind something like a couple of weeks ago is that it was prevalent in the metaverse or whatever you might call it on the internet. I was hearing it from a couple of different angles. For example, I had heard Alex Jones bring up the topic, and I believe it was in reference to Andrew Tate. I want to say it probably was. I heard Fresh and Fit. If you don't know who that is, they're taking over the internet. Catch them on YouTube and Rumble with the best live streams and all sort of content. Fresh and Fit were earlier talking about getting all jacked, getting a Macho Madness and stuff like that just earlier today. They talk about a lot of stuff to include having money and getting more money, and how you might be able to get some money as well, or how I might be able to get some money. They talk about a lot of stuff. Myron Gaines, for example, of Fresh and Fit, he has a separate channel where he talks about all sort of cases, all sort of criminal cases and the like, because he actually used to be a federal agent and knows a lot about the details and the nitty gritty. Anyways, they were making a reference to this choking matter, and I'm pretty sure it was in reference to Andrew Tate, and I'm pretty sure that Alex Jones, Fresh and Fit, we want to get justice. Myself, everybody out there who's familiar with Andrew Tate, we want to get justice. However, we don't have no reason to believe that Andrew Tate or his brother are guilty of what it is you're accusing them of. In fact, it's hard to tell what you're accusing them of. I don't know that. I'm not sure they've been formally charged, but maybe they have. All right. So, pretty much the main reason why they brought up this topic is because there's at least one piece of footage that I've seen maybe a dozen times already, and I've seen it before of Andrew Tate. You might have seen it as well. I mean, there's a lot of Andrew Tate footage out there that's gone viral, but there's one in particular in which Andrew Tate's talking about male female relationships, right? And male and female interactions. Very controversial. It's not for a polite company. So I don't really talk about it very much, but there's a video of Andrew Tate, and this is like the main evidence that they have against Andrew Tate, and they have no other evidence. It's Andrew Tate. He was on a video and where he was talking about the interactions of a male and a female, and sometimes it goes something like chick-coke, slap, shut up, B, relations, and that's kind of how it happens sometimes. Sorry about the code words, but you probably know exactly what I mean when I say all that. Chick-coking, slapping, shut up, B, layer down, and relations. He said, and he said it in his own way, this sequence of events. It's highly controversial typically because it's kind of taboo. People don't like to talk about it, and I certainly don't like to talk about it. Right? But it's necessary at a certain point. And that's why I bring it up tonight. And I brought it up before to people, and okay, for example, many people long before Andrew Tate came into my life and took over my life, and now I'm in his cult. Long before even that, I've been hearing about people and they were talking about choking their girlfriends and stuff like that. I've known people to go to jail for choking their girlfriends and stuff like that. Just wild, weird stuff. Okay. And I've heard about this to the point is where I can understand it has a certain prevalence in society. I don't know how many people are out there getting choked and stuff. And lots of times it's in a very aggressive and physical manner and a scandalous manner. They're off doing these things with extracurriculars to include choking them. Right. I don't want to go any further without saying that I personally don't endorse. We're probably going to talk about it a little bit more, but I personally do not endorse this behavior, and for many reasons. And I've never done it. I put it on God. I don't know. I don't want to say that, but I do. Never done it myself. Never ever done it. Never ever done it. And I also never really cared to even try or ask. I don't want it to have nothing to do with that. But over the years, I had been hearing about it more and more. Not everywhere, but here and there. I'd be hearing about it and how the ladies would be enjoying it. And that's the thing about it. Alex Jones brought it up because he's been around, right? We're not, I'm not saying any criminality, obviously. This is a certain situation where everybody's like volunteering for this sort of behavior in the bedroom. And Alex Jones has had, I don't know how many ladies request that he do that sort of thing to him. He probably didn't. I don't know. I can't say, and I don't want to say. Fresh and Fit, namely Myron Gaines, he was talking about it as well. It's like, here's the thing that for better or worse, these ladies are typically requesting this sort of thing. And it's pretty damn dangerous on many levels. It's pretty damn dangerous. I mean, you could mess around and delete somebody carrying on like this with this sort of behavior, right? Shout out to the second person in the building. We're talking about choking each other, and yeah, I got to use code words because I'm on YouTube still. I think I could talk about it on Rumble because if I was on Rumble, I'm definitely directly not endorsing that sort of behavior. But however, we got to understand there's some sort of prevalence to it. Like, I think it's very dangerous. Not only could you hurt that person, but that person technically could turn around and it would be so very easy to, if they wanted to, after the fact, incriminate you for something that y'all both agreed to. However, there's actually physical evidence. Typically, lots of times you can imagine there's physical evidence left on someone, especially you do it too hard and stuff, I'm sure. There's bruising that might take place, and then guess what? You're in all sort of hot water. That's very dangerous. You're trusting somebody too much, and they're trusting you too much, and that's crazy. I I wanted to point out just because you're not going to hear a lot of people talking about it, I'm sure, or maybe you do. I don't know what kind of people you listen to, but I wanted to point out something that I never heard really anybody talk about before. But this is like epigenetic. This is throughout generations. This behavior is requested by certain percentage of ladies. Why? Because they like it a lot. Right? It taps into something into their generational memory and stuff like that, and they realize that in their ancestry, there's people, and it's in their DNA to like that a lot. The choking. I Not only do they like it, but a physical thing happens to them that causes the man in the situation to like it, and that's the thing that they do for fun. And most times, I would imagine in the world that happens, and nobody gets arrested because they both wanted it. Philip Strackner says it's rude to leave, but I need to go. Don't even worry about that, Philip Strackner. I know not everybody has time. I do this stuff randomly, and it's like you never know when the hell I'm going to do it and for how long and stuff, and it's just not. Everybody lives busy schedules, Philip. That's why I'm very satisfied with the fact that StreamYard it does my recordings automatically, and it'll be put up for anybody who wants to watch it later. Anyways, Philip Strackner says it's rude to leave. He said it's late, so I will take note and come again soon. Take care. And the thing is, please come again if in fact you're curious about all this choking matter that I'm talking about, right? Of a consensual nature. I'll say don't do it. As time goes on, every day that goes on, that becomes a more and more and more dangerous prospect. If you're even going to do these sort of activities, you probably want it under surveillance, and I mean a camera recording the entire act. You're going to want that for evidence just in case this person turns around. But here's the thing. Like I was saying, this is a thing that ladies they don't even know they want until they want it, and it's like deep inside. Deep. How do This is the best terminology I can use. It's deep inside them, all right? This desire. But when you think about it historically, when you really think about it, yeah, it probably happened. Yeah, it probably happened a lot. How many generations of people did it take for you to finally get here? And what's the percentage of them who might have gotten choked and might have liked it even? Who's to say? Who's to say? But you figure that historically, I don't know, it could just be me, but historically, it seems that your ancestors who were females who had babies who eventually had you as a baby, those particular females were probably more than likely being conquered. More than likely, I mean, because that happened a lot. They used to happen all the time, right? It probably still happens, to a certain extent. Of course, it still happens in society, but um, it seems as though throughout those generations, throughout most of the generations, there's a lot of conquering involved, meaning like war and battles, and you might have had a husband, and he gets killed, and then y'all basically had to surrender to whatever group of other men and stuff, and desperately hope to survive. How many times has that particular situation happened throughout history? Probably a lot. And so that's why you would imagine, I can't imagine any other origin. Because if a certain group of men come in and conquer y'all and stuff, and y'all are just some concubines and this and that, and they take advantage, they probably already had wives back at home with children and stuff like that. So perhaps they messed around, slapped you around a little bit, and say, hey, you better like act right We're gonna slap you around, perhaps put a chokokin on you, and then we're gonna do what we want regardless. So you better take it easy. And that's pretty much what the ladies had to do. The ladies who survived, that is, would probably have to do that sort of similar thing, and thereby their body, whether or not they know it, their body begins to understand that, well, if I just submit and I get slapped around from here to there, then perhaps I'll survive and be able to have more children. It's all about survival. And so I just wanted to point out that, I might be biased or whatever. I've never done it. I never even thought about doing it. I don't want to do it. Is that, it's kind of traitorous. It's a little bit traitorous to your people. Well, whoever you consider that as, whoever's your people, it's kind of traitorous to them because as a female, you're kind of given into that behavior of being conquered, not by your guy who maybe doesn't want to choke you, but an invading group of strange men. And that seems to be the origin of it to me. And I could be very wrong about that, but I believe that's where it's coming from. Right. And I've even been told, and I've heard that sometimes guys, and we're just talking about men and ladies, unfortunately, tonight, we're not talking about nothing else. But some guys, there's guys out there who they love all sort of acts done upon them, and I don't want to get into all of them, but they also, there's some guys out there who like being choked. Oh, I shouldn't have said it, but I did. You get my code word. There's some guys out there who they themselves enjoy being choked. And I was stepping back and I was thinking about that just the other day. I was really thinking about it. And if the origin of, why females enjoy that, why certain amount of females enjoy that, if that's correct, then I can't imagine for what reason at all that a man would enjoy being choked during that whole entire experience. But as we have heard, you might have heard, there that does happen. I would imagine it's a little bit more rare, but that does happen. And I don't even want to think about why a man would enjoy that. It's pretty messed up. All right, but that being said, I'm sure there's men all over the place who've had that experience with the ladies. I say it's dangerous. I say don't do it. But there's been a lot of men who have done it, and there'll be probably a lot of men who do it into the future. And thing about it is, it's not criminal. That's I don't endorse it. It's not against the law, not yet. But however, you can go to jail and prison for a long, long time. And shout out, and I still believe that Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate are going to get out, in due time of jail because of the lack of evidence against them for all sort of stuff. I mean, gosh, dude, there's nobody who's really legitimately concerned about Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate out there being a menace to society that way. There's literally nobody. There's nobody not legitimately concerned about them going and attacking, say, ladies. You're not, right? For example, Hunter Biden laptop, Hunter Biden laptop, and I've heard a lot of damn things. I've heard everything under the sun about Hunter Biden laptop to include, I don't know why I've heard human trafficking. I don't know why I heard that, but I keep hearing that. And what does that mean? That just proves that y'all ain't concerned about it because the laptop is evidence. That's evidence, and there's all sort of evidence in it. But people are over there talking about Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate with exactly 0% evidence. So I find that pretty interesting. Right? And I wanted to put that out there and give y'all some food for thought. Maybe y'all been thinking about this, talking about this with your friends, whether or not you might want to get choked in some sort of, I'm standing against it. I'm standing against it for many reasons. All right. So that was fairly um mild topic manner, I guess you would say. And actually, for the rest of this video, this live stream right now tonight, I want to get a little bit more serious on a little bit of an escalated level of, um, I don't know, it's kind of, it could get you depressed for sure, right? It could get you depressed. But there's no reason to stay depressed. It's just that certain things are worth bringing up from time to time. And I don't talk about it nearly enough. But with all the things going on in the world that we mentioned before on different broadcasts, yeah, World War III, yeah, bio diseases being rained down upon us and stuff like that. There's men on grinder dates bragging about how they want to mutate viruses, and inject them into people and see if it doesn't cause some sort of calamity. All right, I think that's what's happened. All sort of stuff, man. Violent crime out in the public sometimes and stuff in certain parts of town. All right, but there's also a certain situation that can happen on any side of town. And it doesn't seem to have like a specific spot where this happens on an economic, on a class level. It seems to be ubiquitous. This situation I'm talking about in general, and I could probably hear dozens and dozens every day if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I hear about this certain situation taking place, at least two or three different stories every day, all the time. It does not stop. All right. And that's the situation of a man or a lady. And the thing is, it could be either one. It happens. I don't know what's the percentages, but either a man or a lady, and there's the LGBTQs, and they're running off doing their own thing. Sometimes they get real wild. But a man or a lady doing a number of things. Number one, either shooting each other or stabbing each other or choking each other, like we talked about, brutally beating each other and stuff. Sometimes they delete their significant other. And then sometimes they do that and then delete themselves. Sometimes, and this goes for men and women, mothers and fathers, I hear about it consistently. It's sometimes for whatever reason, they take their anger out, say if they happen to have children, I they'll take their anger or whatever, they'll bring all sort of chaos about and actually delete their children sometimes. And like all ages, sometimes babies, sometimes it'll be children 13, 14, 15 years old and even older, deleting their children. And like I said, it's consistent. And it may be quite rare, but it's something that still consistently happens. The other day we had a video in which we were talking about an old lady who purports herself as a young lady, and that would be Asia Argento, and that's a peculiar case. Right? I thought it was well worth showcasing. And if you haven't caught it, it's a little while back to check it out. There's something really going on with Asia Argento. Right? But it takes over men and ladies, and I've seen it, and it happens all the time. So I'm going to talk about one specific incident, And it's not that it's really much more important than all these other incidents. And there's going to be more incidents today about this sort of thing. One particular incident was a lady named Lindsay, and if you want, you could check it out if you want. A lady named Lindsay, fairly young lady. I don't know. I don't know. I've seen pictures. I would guess perhaps in her 30s, early 30s, something like that. But I'm sure I could look it up. But I don't have anything in front of me. This lady Lindsay has been accused of choking her children. I don't even think it was all of her children, and I had to get more of the details and get them all right. But I want to say there was some older children that were not present. I could be wrong about that. But there was some younger children. I believe one was 7, one was 4, I believe. I believe that's the case. And then there was actually a very young child. I want to say less than a year old. And Lindsay is being accused of taking them and choking them to their deletion, and also like doing something real bad to the baby. The baby actually didn't get deleted right away, but eventually the baby did succumb and it has been deleted. And some took over. I would argue that this is not human behavior. It's not a human action. A human's not taking action here. Right? If Lindsay did what she's been accused of doing, I might venture to say, and people will call me a conspiracy theorist, but I would say that it probably got took over by demons, one way or another. This is very serious, but it's a topic that people tend to want to ignore, right? I can't help but notice that it happens a lot. So this lady Lindsay, I mean, taken over by demons, I would say. She has this episode. I don't know this lady. I don't know her background necessarily. I don't know like too much about Lindsay. All right, but she has this episode, and she then jumps out of a window. All right, thing about it is that Lindsay survived, and I don't want to make light of it really, but I do want to point out that Lindsay jumped out of a second story window. Okay, and so like she fell, she hurt herself pretty bad, but she didn't die, right? As being said that as the days go on, she's recovering more and more and she's getting better. This Lindsay lady. And real briefly, I do want to bring up that I don't know much about Lindsay, but it has been said that she was actually a nurse in like a nursery. She's one of those pediatric nurses and stuff like that. And the people who worked with her had really good, nice things to say about Lindsay. All right. So it leads you to believe that either Lindsay is being extremely fake and working in this nursery, and she is all the while plotting and thinking up weird stuff in her mind. That could be a possibility, but it seems more likely that Lindsay was a pretty decent, normal person. Probably that's how people saw her, and they were probably very shocked by this incident. It took over. Somehow demons took over. And I'd read a couple of articles about this particular incident, and I do want to point out also, I think it's pretty important. Um, I want to point out that there, for example, was a GoFundMe that was put up. And I can't blame anybody for putting up a GoFundMe because all this calamity and chaos, not only is it like earth shattering, but financially it's going to be quite the burden from out of nowhere. So there's a GoFundMe um, for the father in this situation, the husband of Lindsay. And I noticed in an article, that it was talking about, this is fresh. This is not very, it's not a very old incident. And I noticed the article had brought up that the husband, more or less to paraphrase him, said, look, Lindsay, is very special to me and this and that. And a lot of people are talking trash and saying all sort of stuff about Lindsay because they read this story and so they become enraged and they fly off the handle. And you're saying all these things, and that he's basically saying that he appreciates all the help, but that he can't appreciate all the trash talking that's being done about Lindsay. And I think he might even wrote out a letter and put it on social media talking about that, more or less he forgives Lindsay. Now, this is a thing that people, and I wanted to point it out because there's people who never could imagine, they would never dream. They hear about this sort of situation and they say, "Oh, this is unforgivable stuff," and this and that. That person's a monster, and that person's the enemy forever. And then a lot of people who are not even related to the situation will come on the internet and type furiously about how she needs to rot and this and that. And it's like, wow, you're talking about this guy's wife now. I don't know any more of the details. I would imagine the husband does, but he's not exactly like spouting it out in the public. From what he was writing, it seemed like, that Lindsay was a great person in his eyes. And she had some sort of problem going on, and the problem just got out of hand at a certain point. And he recognizes that. Obviously, he's going to miss his children, and certainly justice needs to be had in this situation. But that doesn't mean that he can't forgive her. So I wanted to point that out because a lot of people would never dream to do such a thing. But I would suggest that it's only power in that, and it's only success in that. Because when you really think about, say, the opposite way that he could have gone, and that would be a pure hatred for this lady forever, it really doesn't make sense. It's really not logical at all. And although these sort of demons, they tend to take over ladies a lot. These sort of demons, they could also take over men as well. And these demons will get up in you. Maybe something real bad happened, and they'll find a space in you, create this they'll start fueling hatred up in you, and then whether or not you try to ignore it, avoid it, and stuff, you'll have this hate that's brewing up in you for this person. And you might be vocal about it, you might not be, you might be enraged at this person, and meanwhile, it's not going to help you in anything moving forward. It's literally not going to be productive for you in any sort of way. Any sort of way. I've heard like different stories, and we got to get up out of here. I've heard different stories about people taking hatred to fuel themselves. Perhaps they'll take their hatred for something or other, and they'll use it as motivation. And I've heard that a lot. And actually, I think it, in some regard, it's kind of correct because sometimes people take their hatred and fuel it, use it as motivation to get to great, great heights. But, and I'm talking about heights like as far as status and even economically. However, at the end of the day, I think it's really going to be the demise of them. And it's going to tear you down. No matter how much it builds you up, it is going to tear you down. So you could either choose to forgive somebody for doing that sort of thing, or you could hold on to it for as long as you can, and it is going to burn you up inside. All right, so it's like one or the other. Um. Anyways, I'll holler at y'all a little bit later, and it's January the 3rd, 2023. And as we get up out of here, I just wanted to say I've been in relationships. You've been in relationships and stuff, and we think about it, it's like perhaps demons could pop up into people and stuff, right? They'd open the door for that somehow to get up in them, right? And maybe they do some bad stuff, and maybe they need justice upon them and stuff. Um, but however, it's like I find it hard to believe. It's really hard to believe. I mean, you could have been very good to somebody. You could have been very good to your girlfriend and your wife. You could have been very good to your children for years and years and years, but maybe something happens and it takes over you, and then somehow, some way, instead of just deleting yourself because you can't handle the situation, you delete yourself perhaps, and you delete those people, and it's just real hard to believe that you loved those people. You know, yeah, the situation was a little bit much for you and stuff, and I think it's unfortunate and unnecessary to delete your own dang self. But to delete them as well, they had another chance. They would have had another chance. Perhaps they were living wrong. Perhaps you didn't even agree with it. Oh, you think they did you dirty and stuff? Perhaps they did. Um, but at least they deserve another chance, don't they? I I'll holler at y'all with something else maybe tomorrow.